Hi guys, what is going on and welcome to Enlisted. I actually only very recently learnt about this game when someone recommended I check it out in the comments, and well, here we are. The game itself has actually been published by Gaijin. They're the same people who make War Thunder, and you actually may have noticed the very sort of similar tank armor mechanics in the opening clips, and that's because, you know, a lot of the technology from War Thunder has been carried over to this game, despite the game being primarily about infantry combat. So what is it that actually sets this game apart from the myriad of other World War II shooting games and FPSs that are currently on the market? Well, in short, it's the squad system. Whilst you only play as one guy on the battlefield, you get to bring up to another 6 or so with you into combat. They will follow your orders, go where you tell them, and fight other players, and of course the other AI that the other players bring with them. Furthermore, they get to carry different equipment, weapons, grenades, bombs, anti-tank rifles, pretty much anything you can think of, and you can freely switch between them. So for example, if your squad leader gets killed, you can then play as a different trooper, as a private, and so on. You can completely customise their equipment loadouts of each individual squad member, as well as level them up and improve their combat perks. And this does go some way to setting the game apart from its rivals. However, I would say that, you know, given the squad system is the main selling point of this game, you know, this is what really sets it apart from things like Postscriptum and Heroes and Generals. You know, the fact you can upgrade and level your units and have these much larger scale, gripping and supposedly realistic battles, given that the AI squad members are sometimes pretty bad, from staring at a wall to just not shooting at all, or even not taking cover while stood in the middle of the field being shot at. They can certainly be pretty frustrating to use sometimes, and to me it feels like it's the enemy players who are still the real threat, and their AI squads really are not too much of a threat at all. We do of course have to remember the game is still very much in closed beta, so we still have a lot of work and improvements to come. For me, I think part of the problem is the fairly simple unit commands. Currently you only have 2 real positioning orders, and they are follow me or defend this area. I'd really like to see more orders, you know, take cover behind that hedge, hit the floor, throw a grenade, suppress that area, attack that area, and so on. And with those more controls, I feel the AI could really start to be a bit more useful and kind of a genuine threat on the battlefield. I did see someone comment that they thought, why not just remove the AI, just take them out of the game? But I completely disagree. They are what makes the games stand out in what is really a very bloated genre, and despite their problems, they really do add something to the game, and hopefully with more time and work they will function as we want them to, and really sort of make them a standout asset to the game. Irrespective of the current state of the squad system though, the game is actually just a really solid World War II FPS. The combat feels good, weapons feel heavy, and whilst they can be accurate with shells, grenades and tanks rolling by, it's easy just to be suppressing an enemy rather than killing him. It is also brutal and hardcore. One rifle shot to the chest and you are done for. You know, yes, at the start you will face off against other players with better weapons and better equipped squads, but you've only got to land one hit to secure the kill, and that really kind of makes it feel at least like you stand a chance. One area where I think the equipment cap does get a bit larger is with the tanks. In Enlisted you get the option to spawn in with a tank rather than a squad, and as you would expect, all the armour mechanics get ported over from War Thunder, with the exception that your viewpoint is actually locked inside the tank rather than kind of in like a third person mode. This really does make visibility an issue, and you become very reliant on your teammates to protect you from those pesky enemy infantry trying to outflank you, which is great. I really think that adds to the team basis of the game and the matches, and absolutely love that. But however, because the tanks have armour rather than health, same as they do in War Thunder, it does sometimes feel like that you come up against an enemy vehicle which you can't penetrate, because you're in a lower tier tank. And unlike War Thunder, you don't have a lot of different allied tanks to kind of help you, because there's only a couple of tanks per match. But I suppose on the flip side, there are a lot of different ways in tanks which can be destroyed, from infantry to planes to the other tanks, and there is actually a cap you know, the max number that can be spawned on each side at one time. So once that cap has been reached, other players will have to spawn in with the infantry rather than with a tank. And if you actually get killed in a tank, you then need to actually respawn as an infantry squad before you can return your vehicle. So you can't actually just play as a tank for the whole game. Currently, we have just been playtesting the Battle for Moscow. So we're kind of like early war, Russian front. But there are actually going to be a number of different campaigns. From sort of D-Day to North Africa, we're going to kind of have lots of different theatres. So we're going to be able to expect kind of a range of different equipment and tanks from different periods and from the different theatres of the war. It's not just going to be sort of Russians versus Germans. Obviously D-Day was going to be Americans as well. So we're going to get that sort of different range. It's not just what we're being able to test at the moment. I think there was actually a D-Day playtest over the Christmas period, which unfortunately I missed because, well, I hadn't heard about the game at that point. There are also just a couple of little tiny things that I really like about the game. One of them is actually the minimap. If you've been looking at the minimap through kind of any of the footage that you've been seeing so far, you'll notice that enemy icons don't highlight and move when they get spotted by either you or your teammates. And that's because enemies don't naturally show up on the minimap. This is not Call of Duty, there's not a UAV up there scanning them. You actually have to mark them. If you'll notice, sometimes a marker will come up on the minimap for a tank, but it's a static marker. That's something that a teammate has seen that tank, probably has no way of dealing with it, and so has put a mark of that enemy tank on the map. So the planes can now see that, and maybe me as a fellow tanker or an anti-tank infantryman can see that and try and deal with that tank. If that tank moves away from that spot, that marker stays where it is. It doesn't move until another player updates its position on the map. Really cool, simple little thing. I know you sort of get this stuff on Postscriptum as well, so I know it's not exactly legendary, but for what is effectively sort of a fairly fast-paced FPS, I like that as a feature. It makes the sort of team play all the more important. One silly little thing that really catches me out all the time is the fact that magazines have limited ammo. And by that I mean, say you have 200 rounds. If you fire 10 rounds out of your 20 round mag and then change ammunition, as you get round to the end, if you still have 30 rounds left, but that might be 3 magazines with 10 rounds in them each, or 2 with 10 rounds and 2 with 5 rounds. So you end up reloading and you're stuck with all these half-empty magazines. And I'm absolutely chronic for reloading after firing about 5 shots. So before too long I end up with all these sort of half-empty magazines and it's an absolute nightmare. But a really cool little feature, and things like that really kind of add to the immersion for me. So that really about sums up my experiences in the game so far. I have honestly really enjoyed myself, and I can say that I think the game does honestly have really quite a lot of good potential. I enjoyed the combat, the mix of infantry, planes and tanks, and the progression system. I really like the fact you can sort of grind to unlock different weapons. I like the fact you can equip all your squad individually, and you can level up your troops as well as the units. That's nice. I like that. I think it really adds to the immersion of the game. I think if the developers can just really sort of get a better handle on the AI squads, get them to function a little bit better so they don't feel just quite so clunky. You know, if they can just get rid of those times where they just stare at a wall, you know, get them so you can issue a few more commands to them, make them a little bit more useful, then I really think they'll have a good quality game on the hands. And it's certainly one I'm going to be keeping an eye on, and it would be interesting to see how the game is received when it launches. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know what you think about the game in the comments down below. Of course, subscribe to the channel for a lot more Enlisted content, hopefully, and I shall see you all on the next video.